In this video, I'll share my perspective on the most important thing to consider when improving a child's gymnastics performance. It's much simpler than you think. Drum roll, please. Make sure they're still doing gymnastics. Yes, it's that simple. Each year, hundreds of gymnasts decide they're going to hang up their handguards. They might not enjoy the sport anymore. They might prefer another one. They may no longer want to miss out on social activities. They might be finding motivation difficult as they're not progressing, or they might experience burnout from too much training. Perhaps the parents have sucked the fun out of the sport through putting too much pressure on them. Maybe they got injured, and maybe their experience with a club or coach has been a negative one. And of course, there's many other reasons too. This is a great shame, and every effort should be made to ensure the child has a really positive experience in sport. And we want gymnasts to make the decision to finish gymnastics on their terms when they're really satisfied with what they've gained from their involvement. This attrition rate, which is the rate in which gymnasts finish the sport, has a huge impact on competitive rankings. Each time a gymnast hangs up their handguards, there's one less gymnast to compete against. Therefore, a competitive advantage is to ensure that a gymnast has the love, desire, resilience, and foundations to participate in competitive gymnastics long term. As the saying goes, you've got to be in it to win it. This year, there'll be hundreds of young 7-year-olds who take up gymnastics and become involved with regular sessions, with the potential for them to be competitive gymnasts in the future. By the time these gymnasts are 10 years old, many of them would have already decided to stop gymnastics because the training volume wasn't a good fit for the family, or the parents weren't happy with their child's training groups and level. Before the age of 12, many of the remaining gymnasts would have finished as it wasn't fun anymore, or there was too much pressure to achieve on someone else's timescale, and a few injuries would have been experienced too. Over the next couple of years, lots of the remaining gymnasts will experience increased training volume, school pressure, social opportunities that they no longer want to miss, and more. If their performance isn't improving, they'll likely struggle with motivation and having to navigate puberty, which could impact them both physically and technically. So by the time these gymnasts are 16 years old, there may just be a handful of them still competing, let alone competing at a high level. Less than 1% of those 7-year-olds that started would be involved in a national team. And this cycle repeats itself over and over again every year. What's worth noting is that many of the reasons that children finish gymnastics has nothing to do with their ability. And several gymnasts that do stay within the sport are not necessarily the ones who had the most potential to be high performers. But talent and potential is irrelevant if the child has finished gymnastics. Whilst not all of the gymnasts that have finished gymnastics have done so due to pressure and burnout, a significant number will have. Ironically, trying to chase the dream of being in the top 1% is the reason we lose so many of the other 99. They're pushed too hard, too soon, and end up leaving the sport entirely. So what can we learn from this? It's essential we take a long-term view on a child's gymnastics journey. It really is a marathon, not a sprint. And even at international level, we're seeing the average age of participants increasing as a trend, with many athletes now competing and thriving well into their 20s. This is great news as the sport becomes more inclusive and allows more time for our young gymnasts to prepare for a long future in the sport. A child beating the other 7 and 8-year-olds who train at another local gym might seem significant, but it's almost irrelevant in their long-term gymnastics journey. Most of those gymnasts, unfortunately, won't even be competing within a few years, and those still performing might have 20 years ahead of them. What really matters is whether the child has the physical, technical, and psychological tools to have that much longevity in the sport, as well as the passion to do so, and that takes time. If you want your child to have the opportunity to keep developing, then ensuring they're happy, healthy, and hungry to learn is the first priority to do so. They simply can't continue to improve and find joy in a sport that they don't want to be involved in. Too much pressure to perform and achieve at a young age will suck the fun out of the sport for these children, or create such anxiety that they'll never perform to their ability. A surefire way for them to quit the sport before they've realised their true potential. There are, of course, lots of factors at stake when it comes to improving performance, but still participating and finding joy in gymnastics should be our first priority. Thanks for watching.